4, 5. Seems like it's working. Of course, some technical difficulties, you cannot go without those. My off-screen just froze, but I'm fixing it now, so that's why we are starting a bit early. Can you hear the sound, music, voice? Let me know. Join Type's live event. Oh yeah. See, restream. We're live. 5 megabits per second, 30 frames per second, 2-second keyframe interval for all you geeks out there. Full HD resolution. We're at full HD because I tried 4K recently and there was a noticeable delay between my capture card and my sound, so that was super annoying. I guess you will have to survive with HD. Four people already in the stream, that's lovely to see. This is always the most interesting part because the audience is not big enough yet for you to have some questions and really interact. So I'm thinking of starting some stand-up routine or something to keep you entertained for the first 10 minutes of the stream while we are waiting for the people to join in. Today we're going to be talking about prioritizing tech work, but it's going to be a bit special. It's the continuation of my live stream series. I'm kind of building towards it. And today we take a look at when things start to pile up and there's a big opportunity for it to take a wrong turn if you don't take action. I saw some celebrations, so I guess the stream is working and you can see me well. Oh, I'll paste the YouTube link in case somebody wants to watch on YouTube. In case someone prefers to watch on YouTube. Perfect. Let me know if you have some questions or you want me to address a certain thing, you have something that you want to talk about. Paste it in the comments and we'll get to that. Recently started a new project and it's been really fun to put a lot of the things that I've been talking about into practice, like assembling the first tech team, and then because we're all remote, it's really important to make sure that we over communicate and that we are all on the same page regarding the goals. So that's been quite fun. It's early days still, but I'm really happy with the way the team is forming and how they're interacting with the project itself, but also between each other. So that's really cool. Today we're talking about prioritizing tech work, but it's not going to be as boring as you think. It's not going to be just Eisenhower matrices and project management stuff, because I'm not a project management expert. I'm a fractional CTO, so we are going to take a look at it through the lens of a fractional CTO. It's a nice overcast day here. I'm based in Brno, the Czech Republic, and it kind of helps with the lighting setup. When the sun is shining brightly, I don't have any window shades yet, so that makes it really tricky to set up proper lighting, because I'm sticking glue all over the glass to try to make the sun go away. That's probably the only instance where I really want the sun to go away, is when I'm streaming. But live stream number 5, what a journey it has been so far. 5 weeks in a row. I was super nervous when I started the first live stream 5 weeks ago, and now it feels like the number 2 was not as amazing, but I feel like I've come into a routine where preparing these presentations takes me less time than it used to. And when I schedule it, I don't have a clear idea of what I want to talk about. It kind of spontaneously comes from when I'm working on it. That's the way I like to approach it. I like to work where I don't have a clear idea, but then it somehow unveils the more I work on it. So you're going to see what's the output of today's session. I hope it's really interesting, because it builds on top of the story that we've had so far. And I got some positive feedback regarding the first live streams. As you're joining in, let me know in the comments. Give some life signs away from you. I would love to get a little bit more engagement. Say hello to your fellow watchers in the stream. It's probably rainy or overcast in a lot of Europe today, so you might be feeling a little bit down. But on the other hand, it's Friday, so weekend is just around the corner, and this is like the last serious topic that's half serious before you head off into the weekend and turn your brains off into a more relaxed mode. I hope you all had an amazing week. It was for me. Super hands-on, and I kind of missed being more involved in programming, in architectural decisions, but also like in setting up the team and making sure that everyone's collaborating with each other. I've also gotten better at just posting daily and creating this knowledge bite series that I said. I have a camera setup now that makes it easier for me to talk about a small topic in 3 to 5 minutes and just publish that daily. I think that's valuable. And I'm also posting that on YouTube just to have a knowledge base of it, like a library. I liked LinkedIn, but sometimes it feels like everything is just too much feed-based, and all the knowledge that you're building kind of gets buried away. So one of the next steps for me is to revamp my website. I just cobbled together what I have currently, and to start putting more content also there, and create a system where I'm posting it once and then it goes on different channels. Welcome new people joining. We're gonna start in 5 minutes. We just need to wait for a couple more people to join in before we get into the meat of the presentation. Is the sound good? Everything okay? Image quality I'm using Apple's Sidecar for my off screen, but for some reason it's not really working today. It keeps freezing. And that's where my comments and everything is. So still have a couple minutes before we start our presentation, so I'll try to fix that first before we go into it, because I would love to see your comments. But I think as a backup, I'll open it on my phone as well, just so that if it falls down during the presentation, I can still see what you're writing. Okay, 2 minutes and we're off. 2 minutes and we're off. Just go through the story so far, but I think we got it all. And you're in for a treat. Okay, I'll slowly get into the presentation now, and we will kick things off. First of all, let's cue the stop the music. And let's get into the presentation itself. So thank you everyone for waiting. I'll put you on the other screen for the intro. So hey everyone, and welcome to the 5th live stream. I'm kind of building it as a series as I go along. We started with a short recap. The first live stream was about an MVP and how to build one when you still don't have a team yet. And what are some of the prerequisites that you need to think about before you start actually building your project. The second live stream, we don't talk about the second live stream. The third live stream was about how to build a fantastic tech team and what elements go into that. Like, what are the characteristics of a fantastic tech team? How to build a team that's goal-oriented, highly performant, and motivated to deliver on business goals. On live stream number 4, we talked about how to scale that tech team. And today, we're talking about what happens when everything is urgent. All right, a lot of us are probably very familiar with how it looks like when you're in an organization where it seems like you're not able to manage because there's so much demands from all sides. Let's start with a story about the startup life. So early in my career, I was in a startup, and it became really hectic, really fast. And throughout the years, I've noticed there's something almost strange to me that's being celebrated in a startup mindset, which is that you need to embrace the hustle. The problem with that approach is that people get burned out. And today I want to talk about how to prevent that. But back to the story. I joined this company that was in a high growth phase, and there was a lot of features that we wanted to build as a team. There was a lot of marketing experiments that we wanted to run. And because it was an MVP that an agency built, not in an amazing way, and we kept adding hacks on top of that to run experiments, it became very difficult to maintain, very difficult to extend, but the pressure was there to keep improving it. And at some point we came to a position where the developers became very defensive. We were all trying to push away features because we knew the importance of working on maintenance and improving the technical depth, increasing the reliability of the system. But on the other hand, the other company parts couldn't wait for us to go on a 3-4 month refactoring journey while they look into the air and wonder, where's my tracking pixels? Where's my email campaign? How do we track everything? Somebody wants analytics. The BI department is asking, where are my data metrics? We want customer info. So you've got all these departments that are pulling in different ways, and we were at the center of it as the tech team. And even though that wasn't a tech company. So the pressure was on, and the walls seemed to be caving in. We felt a little bit like this guy here. Everything was constantly on fire, but this is fine, right? It's a startup. It's a startup that embraced that, but for me, I think it's not helpful to think in these terms. I don't embrace the hustle culture. I think you need to work hard, but then rest hard as well. There needs to be a balance, because if you just work, you burn yourself out, and as the organization, the same things that apply on an individual level apply on the organizational level as well. So you don't want to burn out your organization if you want to hit those business goals. So the key question is, how did we get there? As product demand increases and the product complexity increases, it's an MVP, so a lot of features are added, especially in the early days when you're trying to figure out what's my niche. You want to run many experiments and see what works. But to do that, you probably need a bigger team. So the company that I'm talking about ended hiring a lot of experts, from customer acquisition, marketing experts, and they all needed tech support. If you're not careful and your tech strategy is not thought out, you take on too much technical debt, and that increases the amount of pressure that you're feeling. So what are some of the sources of tech team pressure? Let's dive into that. Again, if I put myself in the mindset of that organization where we were seeing all these issues, and it's not just that organization, I also have clients who are in a similar position where the tech team is dealing mostly with operations, and they're not thinking strategically because they simply don't have the capacity to do so. So here are sources of tech team pressure. Let's say you've got a big marketing department that needs to push a lot of experiments, get a lot of customers to the door. Maybe you have so it's very tactical. Lots of operations. You need to keep the day-to-day business running. And if you didn't invest yet into automating a lot of the processes around it, you will have a lot of operational overhead. Especially if you're not a tech company that's like a software as a service, but even there you can have those kind of problems. Let's say that because you took on a lot of tech debt and you're kind of hacking away at the code, you don't have a good culture, that decreases your reliability, and that means there are going to be a lot of customer support. Maybe payments are not going through, maybe something is breaking for the users and it needs manual intervention. That increases the load on the tech team. Then there's mental overload. If you think about a tech team and you look at how they're organized, if everyone's under the same roof and shares the responsibilities, it means that, especially when the team is small, they need to be generalists. They need to know about so many things, like how to deploy to production, what server is it running on, They need to actually code the feature. They need to be able to solve customer support requests. They need to be able to talk with product owners about new features. It's like it's so much for one person to keep in their brain, which means that their mental capacity is all over the place. You want to reduce that long term. Then you have silos that can form, because most organizations tend to organize around a particular set of skills. So let's say naturally you create a marketing department, you put all the marketing people there. You create a tech department, you put all the techies in there. You create a sales department, put all the sales people there. And that feels like a good way to organize it, because you have a senior leader at the top and then they will organize it. However, it creates an organization which is very much separated and siloed. And those different functions don't have a good overlap, so they're not goal-oriented. Each department has its own goals, and they're all pumping features into the tech organization, which increases immensely the pressure that they're feeling. So nobody's getting anything done, the tech team is overwhelmed, and you end up in a situation where everything's on fire all the time. And the danger there is that the organization itself can get used to that kind of mode, and they start talking about the terms, we are a dynamic environment, everything is always chaotic in our company. But that's a self-imposed limitation, and it doesn't need to be like that. So let's talk a little bit more about the organizational effects that this kind of setup causes. First, you've got burnout, because there's a lot of pressure on the tech team, and there's a lot of mental cognitive load on them. They will work evenings, late hours, and they will get burned out, which causes them, the tech team, to become defensive. And it makes the other teams aggressive, because if they want something from the tech team, they need to come in and increase the pressure. So they're coming in, this is super important, you don't understand how important this is, we need to build it now, give me a team member who will work on this. And that the tech team says, we cannot do everything at once, what do you want to give up? And you get into this conflict of trading cards. When you're feeling this kind of pressure, it's really easy that the code quality deteriorates as time goes on, because there's never enough time to do tests. There's always new tasks coming in. There's always operations that need to be taken care of. So that produces a lot of bugs and leads to a lot of frustration. And the organization itself starts to play the blame game. It's the tech team's fault, right? No, it's the product team's fault, says the tech team. It's no one's fault, and it's actually everyone's fault. And it's also normal. Especially when the organization goes through this transition into a growth phase where you're trying to figure out how to structure the organization itself so that you have a highly efficient team and you reach your business goals. It's normal, but it's also not what you think. I think there's 3 factors that really play into this. One is a lack of culture, the other is a lack of strategy, and the third is a lack of collaboration. Let's talk about the first one, lack of culture. So this is the way how you approach challenges. And I know I talked a lot about in my previous presentations about how important it is for the tech team, but not just the tech team, everyone in a company, to ditch the us versus them mentality. Oh, we are the product team, we are the tech team, we're the sales team, and those guys in the product team, they don't understand us, and saying from the tech team's perspective, it's always the product people and the marketing who are coming here with their stupid tasks, and that creates a lot of conflict. It enforces those silo mentality. So what's the other way to approach it? It's to have a very goal-oriented mindset and also to reorganize the organization to be better supported, more cross-departmental collaboration. When we're talking about culture, another big one is autonomy and ownership. Is the tech team or anyone in the company allowed to be autonomous? And they can only be autonomous if they know what business goal they are pursuing and they have the free hands together. So that's important when you're creating those kind of teams. The next one is, are you giving space for mentoring and knowledge sharing? Let's say you're bringing in junior people. Do you even have the capacity to mentor those junior people? Because if you do not, then hiring them is irresponsible. And the next aspect of culture is your tolerance level for hacks. Are you comfortable going for quick wins at the cost of long-term sustainable success? Because that's how you build up tech debt, and a lot of the times those choices are not made consciously. They're just patchwork upon patchwork, and then 6 months down the line your code becomes so unmaintainable that nothing can get done, and you wonder, how the hell did we get into this situation? You cannot really see the forest for the trees. The next factor is a lack of strategy, and I'm talking here about the tech strategy. This is how you achieve business goals through technology. So if you have a business goal in mind and you're thinking about how do we organize our tech department in order to be efficient and set up for long-term success, there's trade-offs that you will need to make. You will need to invest into automation and tooling, because that will reduce the amount of operational work that you have. And the idea is you want to decrease the day-to-day operational task because your tech team needs to work on the strategic long-term stuff. If you're just burning oil on maintenance and operations, then that spells doom for your business success in a year's time, or 2 years, or 6 months. You will need to make informed choices about the technology. You need to set a level of your coding standards. Because if you hack away at the system, eventually it becomes an unmaintainable mess. And sometimes it's good to lower your standards, but you need to know where they are, and you need to strive to return as soon as you can to meet them. The next one is hiring and mentoring and getting people on board. How will your tech team grow over time? And you need to put systems into place so that you can effectively onboard those people and make them productive in a highly chaotic environment. If you don't have that, then don't bother hiring, because you will create more of a mess by bringing in new people that you cannot support. The third factor is collaboration. We talked about the silo mentality and how when you structure an organization into role-based system where you have developers in one box, or like the tech people in one box, the product people in one box, that leads to a silo mentality. And you cannot effectively solve technical issues and just by reorganizing the tech organization and keeping everything else the same. It just won't work, because there's still going to be a gap between the tech team's goals and the goals of the others, and there will always be fights, us versus them. You need to merge this thing together in a smart way that's very goal-oriented. And that will improve your communication channels. They will have a common vision and common goals. We touched briefly on this, but the question is there a better way to organize it when the heat is on and there's a lot of pressure to perform? Yes, clear business objectives and then a tech strategy that will serve them. In order to get to this place, however, you need to understand the value and impact of everything that you do. Now that's hard. That's why a lot of the times it's not done, because it's hard to measure. How do you measure impact of a feature that you are planning to develop but you have no real world data about? You need to get that data, and sometimes that means building a prototype. Sometimes it means that you do customer surveys. Sometimes it means just doing research. But it's important to understand the value and impact, because that will be the key when we are prioritizing what we focus on. What's the customer impact, right? Is it customer satisfaction? What are we trying to achieve? Are we saving money? Are we reducing churn, improving stability? What's the strategic significance of that feature that we are, or enhancement that we're trying to make? So here's my secret sauce. Think about what goals we are trying to achieve, and then what investments are we willing to make to get there. Because those are investments. You cannot just reduce technical debt, increase reliability, squash bugs. At the same time, you need to prioritize. If the code base is a big, messy thing, maybe the first thing you need is some tests just to get the confidence to make those underlying changes. But you need to know what will give you the most return on investment. If you're getting a lot of customer support requests, how much will that improve if you improve the reliability and get rid of the most bugs? And sometimes it means going for a Pareto principle, where you tackle 20% of the biggest issues and that solves 80% of your customer support requests. I like thinking in this, like, what are the, you cannot get beyond analyzing, or actually you need to analyze what's coming in, and then you can decide what are the key issues to resolve, and that will give you the most impact. Let's talk about more secret sauce. So that's what I was saying. Do a realistic assessment of the situation. What's coming in? What's the mental load of the team? What kind of problems are we doing manually day to day that we can automate, delegate, or hire people for? Now, if some of you that know me know that I'm really bad at prioritizing. And it's something that I'm working on improving in my personal life, but also in a professional setting. So I tend to work with somebody who isn't, and use frameworks to get around my limitation. This is Dwight Eisenhower, a productive guy who created the Eisenhower matrix. And when you're inside the organization and thinking about the tasks that are coming in, I find it helpful to put them through the matrix and figure out, do we need to do it now? Is it urgent and important? That's a bug like production's down, of course. Drop everything, fix the production. If it's important but not urgent, if something comes up, like we need to refactor this, it's really, really important. Yes, but it's not urgent, it can wait. So it means that those tasks you schedule. If it's not important but urgent, for example, if you're a CTO and somebody comes, hey, there's a client, they have a problem, if that's not like your biggest client with a massive problem, delegate that to the team member. One of your developers can take care of that, because you need to be focused on the strategic stuff. If it's neither important nor urgent, then throw it in the trash. It doesn't need to be done. And just going through the simple motion of A task came in, instead of jumping immediately on it to just figure out where in the matrix it lies, can help you a lot to reduce those distractions. And when we're talking about distractions, another important issue is to lower your tolerance to disruptions. Because if in an ideal case everyone's working on what's most strategically important. So if you're the CTO, you're working on tech strategy, what we're building, planning, researching new technology. And if you're constantly being interrupted by customers' requests, bugs from production, you will have a really bad time. And especially if you respond to that, you're not acting strategically. One thing that I had at MVP Factory, and I've taken onwards from there, is to outline my tasks when I'm in a role, in a leadership position. And as I say, that's CTO level tasks, that's tactical, operational, and then there's, like in terms of importance and strategic versus tactical. And I just set a bar of I want to be here or above. And during the day, I just check myself, am I strategic or am I falling on operational? And if it's fine to dip into the operations once in a while, but if you find yourself constantly below the bar dealing with operational stuff, that's signifying a bigger problem that needs to be addressed. Now let me just check comments to see if we have if all is good. Perfect, let's continue. So, before I begin, a little sip of water. This is how you empower teams. More of my secret sauce. The CTO should not be the gatekeeper of course, it's important to gatekeep, but if you place systems in place, the systems can gatekeep instead of you. And the tech team can be empowered if you give them more autonomy to tackle those daily challenges. It's important to slice it up, the responsibility, and delegate those tasks, because it's not, the CTO should be a strategic role, and if you're constantly doing operations, something's really wrong. Give that to your team, give them the autonomy and the opportunity to deal with them, and to also identify areas for improvement. And then it becomes about your tech strategy to make carve out enough space that the team itself can say, you know what, there's this painful legacy that is causing a lot of problems, and we could really benefit from refactoring that. And then you let them do it. So you can reduce the cognitive load through clever organizations. And I mean that by delegating and putting people accountable for a certain part. Let's say somebody's tackling all the customer requests, and sometimes that person will ask for help because of some things they cannot resolve themselves. But it's really important that they are accountable for that. You don't want to be accountable for everything and then have people constantly message you and interrupt your work. The next part is manage stakeholder expectation. So when the heat is on and there's a lot of tasks coming in, oops, some technical difficulties, sorry about that. My iPad just decided to disconnect. I'll just be a second to reconnect that. It usually worked well, but now it's somehow not playing nicely. But that's expected 4 live streams without any problems. It's bound to happen. Let's see, we're back. There's still 7 people on the stream. That's lovely to see. And let's get back into it now that the technology has been resolved. So yes, manage stakeholder expectations. It means that it's better to over communicate than not communicate enough. Tell them about the progress, the challenges, the deliverables frequently, and keep an open line to the tech team. And do transparent tracking and reporting so that everyone can check what's the progress, what's in the pipeline, what are we working on. The next one, really important on the list, is avoid burnouts and monitor how much under load your tech team is. Find ways to decrease that by automating, by doing triage on the features. And encourage a culture of focused work and focused rest, because people are way more productive when you give them a limited amount of time to work on something, but that time is focused, than if they're spending 12 hours a day fighting fires and not being really productive. And give them some mandatory time off. I know a lot of people that never take a day of vacation in their life, and they're constantly signaling that they're completely burned out. So have your team take that, especially when the heat is on and you want to control this chaotic environment and eventually turn it into a more sustainable place. When we're talking about those classic project or team dynamics of norming, storming, performing and reforming, you want to go into that pre-performing stage as quickly as possible. But it's normal to go through the storming phase where you're still figuring out how the structure of the organization is going to be, how to approach the team structure, how to deal with the workloads that are coming in. As long as that's an improvement over time, that you're seeing real-time gains, that you're going to a better state. And it's good to set yourself some markers of how are we doing 3 months from now, 6 months from now. Because when you're in high stress, high heat situation, it's really tempting to just deal with the day-to-day stuff every day and just basically survive. But then you don't know if it's going better and better over time. You want to slowly crawl out of this hole where everything is urgent into a place of sustainable progress. That's it for the presentation today. Q&A, hit me. Let's see some questions, people. So for people, let's do a quick recap. For people who have joined late, I was talking about the progression from when you don't have a tech team. So my live stream series so far, when you don't have a tech team and you're building an MVP, then you hire your first developers, how to turn them into a fantastic tech team that is goal-oriented, has a strong vision and purpose, and is able to deliver excellent work. Then we talked about how to scale that tech team and when you need to scale and how to maintain the culture as you're scaling. Today we came to the point where at some point the pressure, the heat becomes too much, and we were talking about strategies of how to deal with those problems. Let's see if there's some questions. No questions yet. People are shy today. Come on, come on. I don't bite that much. So, continuing with a quick recap, so maybe you get some more ideas to ask questions. We're talking about how the increased product demand and product complexity leads to a lot of pressure on the tech team. And that increases, especially when you boost up other departments like marketing, sales, customer care. And if your code deteriorates or you take on a lot of technical debt, either consciously or unconsciously, that can lead to bugs in production that also increase the day-to-day operational complexity. So that has negative side effects on the tech team, and they start to feel a lot of pressure. They get burned out, they become defensive, and they come into this situation of, okay, it's the product team's fault. They start playing the blame game. No, it's the product team's fault. It's nobody's fault, but it's everyone's fault. It's normal, and it's not what you think. We were talking about how there's 3 key factors that contribute to this. There's a lack of culture, lack of strategy, and lack of collaboration. We're talking about how you need to set up your culture so that you avoid this us versus them mentality, but you give the team autonomy to perform. We're talking about how to define a tech strategy, how to identify which key things are important according to and urgent according to the Eisenhower matrix, and just triage those things coming in. How to think about and carve some time from your tech team. We are talking about collaboration and how to reorganize the organization so that it's more goal-oriented and cross-departmental instead of just siloing people in according to their role. We talked about if there's a better way. We talked about following clear business objectives and then deriving a tech strategy for it. And to do that, to understand the value and the impact, and then we talked a little bit about my secret sauce and tactics for that. And that's it for the 5th live stream. Let's see if there's still no questions. I'll wrap it up slowly. Yeah, I think people are slowly leaving, so there seems to be no further questions. It was amazing to have you all here. I really look forward to live stream number 6. The next one is probably going to be from Budapest, so it will be slightly different, but I'm committed to this weekly activity now. I find it really inspiring to create something, to create a presentation, and it forces me to think about the knowledge that I have, distill it into a presentation and give it to you. So I look forward to doing more of that. There's always also going to be more content coming from my short knowledge bite series that I'm producing daily, where I talk 2 to 3 minutes about a certain topic and just ship it straight into LinkedIn and YouTube. So if you want to watch the live streams 1 to 5, you can do that on YouTube. I got all the videos there in high quality, so you can just also skip around because the LinkedIn player is quite a bit limited. Anyway, thank you for your time. It was amazing to have you. Have a fantastic end of the week, and I'll see you next week. And you can expect the announcement for the next live stream title on Monday as always. Take care and see you soon.